So I see your stuff.
Sweet.
And then do I need to do anything else here as long as I see it or good?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, do I need to turn this mic on yet? He does all that, right? I don't need to do anything. I just want to make sure.
No, it should be live. You should be able to hear me right now, Eden.
Oh, probably fine then.
Test, test.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, the world can see you right now.
Yeah.
You don't have to wear a mask while presenting, though.
So now that you pulled this one,
Yeah.
I'm not.
All right, let me just put it back for you. Pink.
Um,
Let's just do this. All right,
Are we doing anything with mics right now?
your mic is right here, so just don't get too far away.
Okay, standard.
Yeah, and you'll be good. You want me to move it to this side for you?
Yeah.
Perfect.
If you want to see what it looks like, do you care? But this is kind of what's happening right now. You're both there on this seat. Okay. No. No. I can't. Hold on. Okay, I can really see you now.
What's that?
I can see you now. Yeah, over to about a little bit farther. So like there.
Okay.
It looks like it's moving now. I think there's a camera up here that's following you, actually. Because I'm watching you and it's going where you're going. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're good. I
Cool.
think he did tell me that. I should remember what he said.
You might have to go quick.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah. Pull him off the stage. I know. It's gonna be over for sure.
How long does your session go?
45. They said to do about 25, just 30. Kind of timed it this morning a little bit. It's about 30-ish, so
No questions.
I can make it a little bit shorter.
What's happened?
So that's great. So we have that chance to look at what we are now.
So Kyle, do you have a question at the end?
But here's what we can do is, we have to do one here, two, and three. We're gonna have first one, the chamber of drive customer experience and identify the condition. And that's gonna be really natural stuff. That's gonna be number one. Number two, and having, getting the customers to not, I will, go that way, or that. First one. So we're still taking it seriously. It's a wonderful bill, so we have about 5 minutes to go. If you know, we'll talk with you. How about the last one I want to do? Maybe quite about yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah. Those were the options. Basically, that's going for the but if you don't go to it, then you walk by and they're all recorded. And they will tell you how to do that recording. So you'll be able to do that. So please choose one and don't be an opposite standard. That's the lesson so far. Go and watch what they have. Okay, so we'll do that. Thank you.
I kind of like what, I feel like stick my head in his hand. He used to.
Mike, you ready? Or Jeff, yeah.
I'm dealing with that.
Everything over there?
Yeah. Stand good.
Freaking, yeah.
Last weekend, this week, one last week. I know.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually with the other candidate.
Yeah, no, she's in Spokane. Definitely leaning on people.
You sit up. We started just.
Well, I wanted to get out of my own. I was like, she probably doesn't know who to look at my mask out.
Are you doing the same thing?
I know, I feel just like as a musician, this is what I do. Yeah. Well, not in particular, but two other women. Yeah, I think you did a help with some position. It's hard to get CEO's time.
You shut the doors.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. We're running a little bit late, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kyle Mulder. I'm the Group Product Manager at Aptitex. Today I thought I'd share with you a little bit about my experience with product management through the years at this very high growth company, starting from the startup days to where we are now. Definitely a lot of changes and transformation from a product management standpoint that we've gone through. And I think the way to first frame that up is to first give you a brief introduction of who Aptitex is, if you're not familiar with us. The company was founded in 2012, right here in Boise, and we're really dedicated to protecting brands' IP online. So whether it be trademark infringement, copyright, counterfeit, all of those different types of IP infringement that these large brands work so hard to protect, they come to us, and we have technology and IP expertise to help provide solutions for that. So to be able to frame up the product management story, I thought it would be first interesting to show how this high growth of the company correlates. So looking at this timeline, you can see I mentioned in 2012, the company was founded by Faisal Shah and Chris Burra. At the time, Faisal had some old industry colleagues. He was also the founder of Mark Monitor, I think back in 99 or 2000. And then he founded another company called First to File, took a little bit of a break, and some of his old customers came to him with a problem. And that problem was in the mobile app space. So mobile apps were booming, more and more apps out there on the stores. And with that came bad actors, right? Or just potential, negligence around infringement, but there wasn't a solid solution on the market. So they came to Faisal and asked if there's anything he could do. He went down that path of solving that problem. And during that first year, the founding team and some of the original folks in the startup started to try to figure out how they would go about getting this data, how they would go about solving the problem. Then, of course, they developed a solution. Finally, in October 2013, they launched their mobile app solution. 1 month later, I think it was probably correlated to having the discussions with the customer, they secured their first customer. Over the next couple of years, they were focused on mobile apps and building up that installed customer base. And then another opportunity arose a couple of years later, and it was a different type of a customer who had a counterfeiting issue on marketplaces such as Amazon, eBay, Alibaba, so on and so forth. So they chose to go out and solve that problem as well. They built a marketplace solution and launched that in 2016. This is a pivotal point here because This is the first time they expanded their services on the internet. Remember, they were just doing mobile apps, and now they expanded to marketplaces. From here, they kept going up, getting new customers, new needs, and then they actually expanded into other, what we call digital channels. So marketplace is the digital channel, mobile apps. They built a domain name solution, social media, all the different places where infringement is happening on the internet. They sought out to go and provide solutions for that. So it's important because they're solving the problems, they're getting the new customers, the market needs. This is all customer growth through these years, which presented a lot of changes. You can see the 3 different rounds of funding in there too. So that represents more revenue, more employee growth. So we're doing a lot of hiring. I think when I was hired, there were about 30 employees, and now we're over 100. So you can see there's a lot of changes going on. This last milestone here, last year we secured a alliance with a global law firm, which I'll get into a little bit later. So for me, I can only really speak to the time that I've been with the company. I was hired in March 2017 as a product manager, and I got brought on to work on, first it would have been their domain name solution, their brand protection product, and then we began to develop a corporate registrar as well, and I was on that solution as well. During this time, so you can see the Series A got secured, and then we kept building the solutions as I mentioned before, but these products were being built in silos. So mobile apps was its own product, social media is its own product. We were just trying to build solutions to get that revenue, right? We're chasing revenue at this time. Also at this time I came in, and I think there were some product management activities that were being done. It just wasn't really formalized. It was inconsistent and scattered, which in my mind is completely expected. These folks are in a startup and they're wearing a lot of hats and just trying to make it work and move forward. So I came in, and I know there were some projects being managed like on Trello, others on Jira. The feedback loops were kind of scattered and not really consistent, things like that. In 2018, as I said, we're still building solutions for the market, right? These customers are coming to us and they have needs, not only just the market needs, but our current customers, we're expanding their services. So most often a brand has issues that are across the internet. It's not just going to be in mobile apps. It's not just going to be in domain name infringement. It's going to be, probably in each of those different digital channels. So we were building those solutions. However, at this time, because of us noticing, our customers, most of our customers expand multiple digital channels, and also the market feedback we were getting, we decided to go down a path of centralizing everything under one platform. So taking away the siloed products, putting it under one platform, so then customers can now access all of their data in one place. At this time, I just said we're kind of taking baby steps. We're starting to formalize product management. We got rid of all the different tools. We're all in Jira now, using the Atlassian suite. And there is more of this stakeholder communication going on. Moving into 2019, we got the second round of funding with Series B, and we also launched our corporate registrar. At this time, towards the end of 2019, we now have this centralized platform with 2 of our, what we call modules, digital channels in place. This was interesting because this, along with some market feedback that we got, spawned an idea of how do we go about uncovering a broader abuse network, right? So can we do anything by looking at, let's say it's a particular issue with a domain name. Traditional brand protection would say, go and enforce on that domain name and take it down, get it back. We still do that, that's part of the business, but there's also this question of, is that domain name connected to other things on the internet? It could be linked to a social media page, or it could be, there could be an email on a website that is also showing up as a publisher email on a mobile app, those types of things. So we set out to do a proof of concept on that technology, which moving forward, I'll tell you how that really benefited us as a business. In 2019, we also were doing some things. Remember, we're hiring a lot of employees. What that means is you have more and more stakeholders. We have a lot of customers coming in, a lot of feedback. We're getting a lot of inputs. So as a product management group, it was, how do we deal with all of that expanding feedback so it can be more manageable? And how do we make sure that we're aligned with our stakeholders now that we have more stakeholders to worry about? So we did things in 2019, like we established a product council made up of multifunctional stakeholders. And the purpose was to make sure everybody was aligned with where we were at on priority, making sure that they were able to provide input, and really making sure that we can set expectations on progress and where things are at. Another thing that happened towards the end of 2019 is company leadership wanted to provide kind of more direct oversight into the product management function. So we created a group product manager, which happens to be me. And that allowed us to really make sure that across our different projects, things are being done in a consistent and standardized way that can scale. Okay. 2020, we all got hit with the pandemic. So this was interesting. We really didn't know what was going to happen this year, right? So I think we're going in and having some unknowns. We were fortunate, our customers, a good subset of our customers, the problems didn't go away, and in a lot of ways the problems grew, right? Everybody was going online, which means the bad actors are going to go and try to take advantage of that and mislead these internet users, into different, wanting them to steal their credentials, wanting them to spend money, put up phishing sites, things like that. So we actually ended up exceeding our targets in the year, so that was a good year for us. We're still centralizing all of our modules into one platform. We are about done at this point, though. We about got everything in. And if you remember the proof of concept I talked about earlier, we did choose to go down the investment of productizing what was at the time called TME, or the Threat Mapping Engine, which would later be known today as Tracer. At this time, so we were going to product council, showing our roadmap. Our roadmap was actually it was handed to me, and it was in Google Sheets, which I never really loved because that wasn't going to work that well. But it did serve a purpose. I decided to go out and look for a better tool. So we looked at AHA. I don't know if you're familiar with that. We tried that. It's a good tool. It's very feature rich, a little bit more expensive, and it really didn't suit our needs for where we were at the time, because we just weren't using a lot of what it offered. So what I sought out to find a good software solution for product management, and what I wanted to do is solve I wanted to make sure we could have an appropriate view into the roadmap. So with Google Sheets, you can't really show things that span quarters and cross quarters. It just doesn't work very well. So I wanted something that looked really good visually. I wanted something that was flexible, and I wanted to be able to try to map out the entire life cycle from feedback all the way through. So I looked at different tools, and I chose RoadMonk as the tool that we're using. We're using that today, and it is working for us. I chose that because at the same time, during 2020, I implemented a methodology, which if you're familiar with it, there's plenty of different product management methodologies you can use. But I needed to do something to manage all of this different growing feedback that we had coming in. So we went with Rice, if you're familiar with it. If you're not, it's really just looking at a way to weigh, like kind of stack rank one roadmap item versus the next in priority. It's not an end all be all. It's just a way to give you some sort of a gauge to have these conversations with stakeholders, or like the CEO, for instance, if he comes to me and says, oh, we need to do this, it's going to be really important for this customer. That could be very true, but I wanted to have a way to say, that's great, but here's what your trade-offs are going to be, and here's what they mean. So I went with Rice because I felt like it was something that could be obtainable and measurable for us and what we could do. And Rice is basically reach, meaning how many customers are going to experience this roadmap item. Impact is the I, and that's how important is this particular roadmap item to a customer. Effort is self-explanatory. That's where we go out and scope basically t-shirt sizing 1 to 5 with engineering on what do you think this is going to be for effort. And then the C is confidence, and that's really the product manager's discretion of how confident are you in those 3 other variables. Rice times impact times confidence divided by effort gives you your final score. And like I said, it's not an end-all be-all, but it will enlighten stakeholders to the fact that you may have things that are way higher on Rice score than other things. So we have to have the conversation about why this thing that may score way lower is important. And it could be important, right? It could be a business risk situation, or it could be, like I said, customer attention. There's all kinds of different things that we also use to supplement this tool, like I said. But it's been working really well for us to help with this expanding amount of feedback that we're getting. And then RoadMonk has Rice integrated into it. So it works really well for us because we can go and just plug in our Rice inputs, create a formula, and it works really well. And it actually feeds into the roadmap. So you can attach an idea to a roadmap item. The first part of it, though, is if we have people going out and talking to prospects, giving demos, things like that, they can enter their feedback right into the tool. And then that feedback shows up in a queue. We go through that as product managers, and then we can mark that feedback and tie it to ideas, and that become roadmap items. So then when we're having our conversations and setting expectations, we can click right into a roadmap item and then filter it all the way to say, oh, well, it's tied to these ideas. By the way, there's this many pieces of feedback. You can look into it, and it's been a really good tool. It's not the only tool out there, but I would suggest looking at some sort of a tool to bring everything in to provide some standardization as the company scales. Okay, so in 2021, the company went out, secured their Series C funding. This is the Global Alliance piece. In March, we secured a global alliance with LexisNexis, which is a global law firm. If you went to college and you did research papers, you may recognize the name. They have one of the main research databases for universities. Yeah, they're a global law firm, and this helped us to expand our footprint further into Europe and Asia. So we got all of our products centralized. So now we have this solution. So it's really nice on the sales process to say, here's our brand security platform. And by the way, you can subscribe to all these different modules in it, but it's a one login, all your data is there. And like I said, it helped enable our tracer technology. So during 2021, I think we saw more expansive growth than we even had in the prior years. Part of this was due to this relationship with LexisNexis because they're going out into the new markets, but also our Aptitex sales were growing at a really steady rate as well. So getting more customers, more users than ever, and now we ran into a scaling problem, right? So our technology was having more demand on it than ever before. So that was one piece of the scaling issues that we're running into. We kept seeing more and more problems consistently cropping up. There are also some external factors that were causing challenges for us as well. So what I did in would have been Q3, I think, of 2021, is I had a roadmap level set with the executives and basically said, look, here's what's happening. These issues that are cropping up that are critical, we've been having to inject these into our sprints, which means we're not meeting our roadmap goals. So I had to do a level set and allocate capacity for scaling issues and kind of these technical problems to deal with that, which means I had to reduce the amount of new feature and innovation work that we were doing from that point to the next few quarters, so we can focus on scaling. Because if we can't scale, we're not going to exist very long, right? So I had to basically have a huge roadmap shift and just a lot of backing and data to show why that was necessary. Okay, so 2022, we're continuing the high growth that has not slowed down at all. We're addressing the scaling challenges, so we've addressed that on our roadmap to have a right-sized allocation. And at this time, I would say that data-driven decisions and product ops, like with your consistent processes and everything that we've been doing through this period of scale, is more critically important than ever, because there's going to be more and more information coming in. We need to make sure that, because the customer growth is continuing to go up, that means you're going to have more requests for features and functionality that these customers in the market wants. But it doesn't mean you have more capacity to deal with it, right? So for a product management team, it's important to be armed with the appropriate data for when the CEO or sales or marketing or anybody comes to you and says, oh, we need to do this now, right? You only have so much time, so you have to be armed with the data to have the discussions around the different trade-offs. Because for me right now, I'm heavily scrutinizing all of these requests, and some of them we have to do. We always have to innovate to some extent, but I can't creep into the capacity needed to deal with the scaling challenges, right? So right now, and as we move forward as a company, as we grow bigger, product ops, processes, and data are incredibly important. If there's one takeaway that I would suggest for you from this, is if you're at a point of scale where you think you're getting there, make sure that you are going down the path of methodologies, tools, techniques, and really getting the data available to you to have the discussion for when you have to set expectations and make sure that your decisions are backed. Make sure that you have that stuff in place as you get to that level, because it's not going to go away as you continue to scale. All right, that's all I have. I appreciate your time, and I'm open to any questions you might have for me.
Can you review the NICE equation?
Rice? Sure.
Rice equation?
Yeah, so it's reach, impact, confidence, and effort. So reach is, you can put your own flavor to it depending on how your business works and how your user base and customer base is set up. For us, it makes the most sense right now to look at number of customers. So what I did is I said, I'm gonna define reach as our current customer base plus our pipeline, our prospects that we have interacted with, because that's how you know what's important to them. So it's how many customers and prospects for us are going to experience this new roadmap item. And then impact is, how important is this particular roadmap item to a particular customer? Effort is really just, you go to engineering, talk about this at a high level, and engineering gives a scoping estimate, and we do 1 to 5. 5 is obviously a big effort, and 1 is a small effort, so you find some place in there. And then confidence is the product manager's level of confidence in those 3 variables, which what we find, which makes complete sense, is if you're trying to do rice scoring on a roadmap item that's far out a few quarters, your confidence is going to be lower because it's not as well defined as something that's coming up sooner on the roadmap. So your confidence will get higher as your requirements and definition are more in tune. Yeah, and like I said, RICE is one methodology that we use. I know other product managers, other companies that do a combination of methodologies. We do informally implement some other methodologies, but I like to use RICE as that first conversation starter because it really helps show the differences between the impact of a particular item versus another one.
Thanks.
Could you share a little bit about how you kind of negotiate the balance of hiring more people to take on all these different things versus, hey, this is the team we've got now and this is who we're going to work with for the time being?
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down to the pain in the situation that you're in. It's like working in a startup. I don't know if you've worked in one or not, but you have a constraint. I'm sure that Apoteks would have had more formal things in place and more structure, but when you're trying to go get business, your highest priority isn't to put in a lot of processes and structure, right? So I think for us, we've expanded the team based off of need, and really, if it gets to a pain point gets high enough, things just start dropping and you have to go higher. I wish there was a more proactive approach, but that tends to be how it goes as the pain gets high enough.
Can you talk a little bit more about the kind of navigating when you have your set roadmap and then scaling issues come in and things come up and you're shifting? How often are you having those level sets or resets, realizing, well, we're way behind, how do we?
Yeah, so I did it in about middle of 2021, and we did it again at the end of the year. Basically, I think it's probably on that cadence. You go 6 months, you think you have a plan. Is that thing working or not? Maybe even quarterly, if you can get that data to you quick enough to understand if you need to make another adjustment. But I'm always, we have frequent strategic meetings with executives and things like that, and I'm always going over roadmap and understanding. Part of that is like the CTO is involved, so he can talk to some of the scaling as well. But it's basically, so let's say the scaling starts to get solved. I'm gonna have a meeting and talk with the CTO and others about, well, can we start to reallocate? But again, I think it's based on need, other than just make sure you take a look at it every quarter or 2 quarters and make sure you're in a good position, and if not, you have to make some adjustments.
Sorry, came in kind of late, but I'm curious, with your RICE model, how do your end users or customers impact any one of those 4 variables? And what were you surprised by the most as you were going through this process?
Through the RICE process?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so how they impact, I would say they impact mostly reach and impact, those 2 variables. And the way that we get the data, so I am involved in a lot of customer calls directly and prospects and things like that. But we get the data largely from our sales team, marketing team, and sales engineers, people that are out there every day presenting. They're the ones that are providing the feedback portion of it into the roadmap tool. And sometimes it's more informal, but if they can provide that feedback, then we can understand numbers, right? We can understand, okay, well, X amount of customers are saying they need this, and that can feed into our reach. And then impact, what I'll do on impact is I'll interview sales team, marketing team, and our customer success team, because those people are the closest to the customers. And we'll kind of come to an agreement on what they believe the impact is, and that'll be what factors into that. And then what I was most surprised about with implementing RICE, honestly, I was probably most surprised at how easy it was to get buy-in. And that was whatever path you go down, it's incredibly important that you get buy-in from the top down. And I think RICE provided a reliable and sustainable way that provides logic to the process and says, okay, here's what a roadmap looks like with just RICE. And now you have the conversations. Because there are other factors that are going to be involved. RICE isn't going to solve the problem over and over, but it is going to allow you to have a conversation. Thank you.
It's kind of a generic question. Sorry. Good. Maybe more about architects than even your role in it. I'm curious how you guys work with the other players involved in all the other online systems. So if you're Intuit or something like that, that's coming to you for some brand protection help. How much collaboration are you doing with all of the other players?
Can you give me an example of a player?
Maybe there's an ad agency involved that's doing web work, maybe there's
Yeah.
other companies that are, developing apps that aren't all centralized in your client. Like how much are you working with those people versus just?
Yeah, over the years, we'll pursue different partnerships if it makes sense for what we're trying to achieve. There are tangential companies that are not really direct competitors, but there are tangential service offerings out there, and we will explore different partnerships if we're looking to expand our service offering that way. From a other player standpoint, we're very much dependent on, we're basically harvesting data from the internet. So there's very much relationships with different platforms we're harvesting from, things like that. When it comes to domain names, there's a organization called ICANN that governs all domain names and numbers, but it's DNS and domain names. We have relationships there as well. So we're trying to provide the best services we can by making sure we capture as much of the ecosystem that makes sense for us. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
We're small enough org that I fill the CTO and product owner role.
Mhm.
But I oftentimes see where having some conflict there is healthy. Can you talk about conflict with your CTO and where it's a challenge and where it actually drives?
Yeah, sure. I think that, the CTO and I have a lot of mutual respect, but you're right. There's certainly conflict, right? Because the CTO, by definition, is responsible. One, CTO should be a visionary, but they're responsible for the technology decisions. So they're going to have a one hat in engineering, and then, if they're working with product, there's the product side of it. And the conflict is, I shouldn't have to worry much about the engineering challenges because I'm the voice of the customer, and I'm trying to make the decisions that are best for the company. Your whole product management role is essential because you're trying to make the best decisions for the company, and all of your stakeholders, aside from the CEO, have their own purview, right? The CTO has a purview under engineering. Sometimes they have product as well. The CMO, responsible for marketing. You have a CRO or whatever, VP of sales. Those people all have their purview. And that's why you have product management for making product decisions that try to accomplish what's best for the company, taking all of those inputs into consideration. So on the CTO side, we do run into some conflict. It's healthy conflict, but CTO may want to do something that is best from a technology or engineering standpoint, but from a meeting market needs and doing what's best for the company, that may not always be the best decision. On the other side of it, we have to have a good relationship, because if the engineering piece of it and the tech isn't where it needs to be, then it doesn't necessarily matter what I come to the engineering to build. So I would say it's healthy conflict, but we certainly run into conflict, and we have a mutual respect for what we're trying to accomplish.
Just going to ask, over the last 2 years, have your teams been in the office or remote, and how's that kind of affected productivity and collaboration for moving things forward?
Yeah, most people are remote. We have some flexibility there. I will admittedly say I was a little bit worried about it because I've traditionally been in the office. But it really wasn't I haven't noticed any sort of productivity hit at all. With the nature of software and what we do, you certainly have the ability to work from anywhere, right? As long as you have a solid internet connection, the tools you need. I was concerned because I hadn't really been in a full remote environment, but it has worked well for us. Okay, any?
I just have one last one. So how does your team utilize staff augmentation or contractors for your scaling, to compensate for all the growth you guys have had?
Yeah, so we have gone through a few different waves over the years. Starting off, I think there were a lot of contractors utilized in the early days. we've transitioned to bringing in mostly full-time engineers now. But I will say that now that we have these scaling challenges, there's also the CTO, for instance, is going and looking at trying to augment again with contractors. So it's on an as-needed basis if we need to get some quick help and bring people in. So it's definitely a conversation right now. Any more? Any online? Okay. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for spending some time with me. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Data management and innovation teams. We're building products. Cell level security and the data platform for sharing data and for later. So that's the questions.
How big are you?
10.
10.
We went from 1.5 to 10 last year.
Yeah. So you hope to have these issues.
Yeah. So, and it's good, it's all healthy growth, and we've got 5 customers that are West Data School District, all the way to New York University, US Ecology, PetIQ, Heritage Insurance. So we've added some local ones, and now we've got some international ones. And so we're right at that point where we're going to start having conflicting priorities.
I mean, I would say that there's a whole trend. It's so funny. I don't want to talk about some most of what it just comes down to is just logic and common sense.
You gotta have some. You have to
have a structure and a process.
Yeah, I like that race. Heard that before. We had our own different prioritization thing, but it sounds similar. But that is good.
My biggest thing is
I like the confidence that adds. Because that can really, it gives you a good argument with your CTO. But that might sound all fancy and stuff, but that's not proven in the industry yet, right? Let's not go there until somebody else takes that risk and proves that it works. And then, because confidence is essentially 0, right?
Oh yeah.
It gives you a real standard to kind of align on.
I look at the hard data, like when it comes to reach. Especially because if a salesperson tells me, trust me, everybody's going to want this. Like, okay, I can't use that, right? The CEO wants to play the I agree with you, don't want to talk about this, but the CEO wants to play the CEO card. I think that's fine. Nobody else can use that. The CEO can, no one else. And he's going to tell me, I have this.
Somebody else has to have data.
$4 deal, and then we need to do it. And he can kind of say, you're doing it. Fine. But if a salesperson or VP of sales says, this is yours, I say, okay, who you talk to? What did they say? Show it to me.
We're going to lose the deal without it, right?
Right, we're going to lose it if it's in that. Exactly. And, I've always been here in early stage startup. You guys are doing, hey, this customer wants this, build this, do this, next customer.
Yeah, you got to get that critical mass.
Once you get to critical mass, things have to change. You have to start thinking about market-driven, product-driven approaches versus kind of a service. It's not really service-oriented, but it is kind of yeah, we can totally do that. Trust us. And then you don't figure out you do that in a startup, but when you're looking to scale, that doesn't work. You have to have the gumption to say, yeah, like we can look at it on the roadmap. We can't do that because internally you have to have that to say, here's what we're doing. This is going to impact this creates opportunity. So in your position, so that was a great question about the CTO. So the
Yeah,
CTO
because I want that dialogue, I want that conflict. But right now, it's just me, so I have to have that debate.
You should,
Yeah, you leverage my team.
you should think about, bringing the product manager in. It doesn't need to be a fairly senior product manager, but 3 years, 5 years. And that person would be multiple. So I can't.
Our COO is capable.
Yeah. But at some point, the COO has to be the COO.
Yeah, but I think it works for us, because he's so productive
Well, then,
that he can handle.
but you have the product on the review, right? Do you want him to have it?
I think it's maybe okay to give that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead.
It's not on
It allows me to get out, it allows and also has the risk that I'm getting out of touch with the customer.
Yeah. But if then you're just trusting the COO to be that conduit to the customer.
We have marketing, we have sales, and we have partnership director. So he gets feedback.
What are you guys using? Software here?
So interesting, Microsoft Planner. So it's not great. We looked at AHA, and we just didn't want to spend the money, frankly. So we used something that was free and easy for us. We already had Office 365, so we just went with Microsoft. It's probably changed.
That was low spending on their licensing structures, and they're just, even for us, over 100 now. I wouldn't use many. It's just too much. And then
Yeah, I like your idea, the roadmap one. That kind of helps you, that impact, either impact or reach, kind of both of those.
Yeah.
It affects that, because every item on that list should have an alignment to a roadmap, or why are we doing it?
Every item on that list should have business value attached to it. And what I like about Rice is that one of the issues, it's not an issue, it's just you have to be able to talk to it. Rice is good for measuring different revenue type opportunities. You're gonna have stuff here, roadmap is not revenue driver. Risk, statistics, and things like that. But Rice allows you to have all those conversations in a logical way and say, look, I think this is the beginning. We only got 2 customers. This. And by the way, it's hugely important. The best part is, if it's small, then you can say, it's ROI. For me, I want ROI.
Yeah, we had a easy client, one of our biggest customers. They tiptoed in and they said, you need this feature. Nobody else will ever have it. Dozens of hours of effort, not a huge effort. And I said, okay, we're going to do it, because we retain that customer. And yesterday they re-implemented it. So there we go. Yeah, but not long for that.
But at least
This year, getting critical mass and not wanting to lose a customer, a year from now, losing one customer is going to be a big deal.
6% are all like that.
Well, now you have larger reach, and probably 1 or 2 of them have large income.
I like it. It's really pretty basic and easy to deal with. I would encourage you to look at Roadmap. It is affordable. The only users, use different user roles, where like me and my team, we're all contributor users. So it's $30 for your stakeholders. They can get user business at $5 a month, because they're just going in and having visibility, read-only visibility.